We are live at the workshop here. All right, let's see who is coming to us live here. Today we're going to be diving into, well, I'm brainstorming this idea, so here we are with the live here. Leveraging awareness stages in sales journey. So while we're talking about this, had several conversations with multiple clients, and the way that they're doing their go-to-market, the way that they're doing their inbound, the way that they're connecting with their existing or potential pipeline varies and depends on if you're doing two calls, one client is doing a one call, and they want to do a two call sales process. Other clients have three, four, and five different sales calls, and this all varies depending. And actually, another client actually has zero calls because it's all inbound, which is wild, and it's a successful business. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see that. So I wanted to discuss the variance of those of why that happens, and also to know where you're at with your go-to-market, with your inbound and your sales process, because this is it's pretty simple. But if it was all simple and not complex, then none of my clients would be having these issues. So I want to dive into leveraging the stages of awareness. I'm not going to go through the stages of awareness. Everyone should know them by now. The five stages. I primarily care mostly about problem aware and then solution aware. They don't customers or buyers don't always have the product aware. They at least know a solution exists, and those are the major two that matter the most here specifically. And I'll share with my experience too of how I've done this and seen having the need for like multiple follow-up calls to only 2 to 3 calls, depending again on how I approach the market, and even leveraging ads, content, intro call, connection via messenger on LinkedIn. So let's just dive into the framework and then some examples that I can share with you. So the framework that I'm thinking about in terms of identifying where you are at in the stages of awareness, it really depends on one, your offering, and two, the industry that you're in. In some industries, the solutions are just blatantly obvious. You really don't have to have that much discovery because it is what it is. And one of my clients has that, and it's an incredible thing to see from the outside in. It's also for him to be able to have that kind of business where people know what they need. They just need to get a quote, and then boom. And this is for a larger end service, so it's pretty cool that that exists, but also knowing where you are at in the process. I have another client who's doing like lead magnets and front end ads, inbound ads, gated stuff, and I know people say like don't gate your stuff, like it still works, but the whole idea is like if you're attracting the right kind of person on the front end, then your sales cycle is naturally going to go longer, and you have to do way more education to figure out where they're at in the buying journey. Where are they at in the awareness of either do they know they have a problem, or two, do they know about the solution? I have other clients that sell very high end custom software builds, like custom, like and we know what custom means, but like it's not off the shelf. You can't buy a SaaS for it. And it's very intricate to the business needs. Obviously, the sales process there is going to be a lot of discovery, a lot of different sales conversations, but also more value added conversations to figure out what do you actually need? What is the actual solution here? They know that they have a problem, but they don't know exactly what the solution looks like. So it's ambiguous to what the solution could be because like no one knows what that is. It's a custom build that hasn't been built yet before, even though you can look at analogous solutions or analogous case studies. So that's the first thing. What industry are you targeting, or which industry are you in? And is your solution by nature vague or super clear and direct? And I'm just gonna keep it binary that way. If it's vague, meaning you don't know what the solution is gonna look like, or you need a custom strategy session or something to customize your services to the market, then I'm gonna put you in the vague category. If your solution is like productized, dialed in, or it's like uh, people understand it without asking questions, and the questions really are about can you do this particular type of work, or can you work with this particular type of company, or what are the costings for that, or we have this kind of budget, then I would say you're more direct and to the point, because if they know what the solution is, then it's more about how do we make this work versus can you make this work for us, or we don't even know what the end outcome or the end goal is for what we're trying to achieve. So that's first industry, and then your product, and then from there we dive into the offer, and not just like an offer of here's what you get, here's the risk reversal, whatever, but it's the positioning of what you're doing and what you're selling during your sales cycle. Some people try to sell the services from the very beginning. It's not a good idea to do that. You don't want to do just like sell your services from the very beginning. You want to sell, okay, what is a value added thing? Are you doing, if you're doing a vague thing, if you have a vague offer or a vague industry, are you offering a way to get clarity? Is it a workshop? Is it some sort of alignment? Is it some sort of SWOT? Is it some sort of whatever it is to have whoever you're serving have clarity as to what the next steps could look like. If it's super direct, then the offer typically is more, you can go more aggressive on the actual offer and risk reversals, and not that you have to have guarantees, but like you can be more aggressive with the offer itself. So those are the two things to look at: industry and then offer. And then from there, it's painting the client journey. And I'm going to I mapped out a few ideas of what I'm seeing, what I'm doing, what other clients are doing as well for client journeys. Like some are doing straight up content and they're getting all inbound, website, email. Some of them are going to be directly into the website, some of them are not. But they're doing direct content, and then from there, it's from a conversation. Maybe it's a discovery call, an introductory call, and then from there, it varies anywhere from 3 upwards of 5, maybe even 6 calls. Because again, if they're a super vague offer or a super vague solution, where we don't know what the end outcome is going to look like, I need guidance from an expert to see what I need to have done. Then your sales process is going to be naturally longer. Now, I do want to address though that you can control the narrative. You can actually shorten that. Not that you have to shorten that, because you don't want to shorten the relationship. Time with someone equals more relationship, and if you're selling services that are expensive by nature, then the relationship does make sense here. Um, but the way to control the narrative that I've seen, and this is from my experience, is presenting the initial offer of what you're doing on the front end before they talk to you. This can be done on your sales page. If you've seen like those subscription-based services that they have, here are the 3 tiers, here's your solutions, here's case studies, here's what we do, here's typically what we talked about. So you're moving them from problem aware to a kind of a solution-oriented awareness through an asset that you've built digitally, either a video or like a video sales letter, and yes, those still work, or straight up on your website. And when you do that, you can naturally have more um, calls. The initial call can be further down the line versus setting up 1 or 2 calls to get people to 60 to 80% down the line. Your first call can be about 40% down the line. Then you talk more about relationship building, customization for their particular needs, seeing where they're at, and then from there getting the work started either on the following call or on the third call. On my end, I've tested this in 2 different variations. And again, this is my experience, so I'm not going to say this is a recommendation. But in my experience of directly going from a vague offer, like not like a direct here's a solution productized piece, but like a vague offer, like, hey, we need to discover, see what this is like for you, get an introduction call. Typically the introduction conversations last 1 to 2 calls, and then from there, if it makes sense to do a discovery, and then from there, if it makes sense to offer a solution, and then from there it's a close call or a next steps call. And I always look at this as an empowerment journey, like how can I empower the other person that I'm talking to empower their next step, their next decision. So it's not a pushy thing, it's more about empowerment and always inviting them to the next step. I think that's a critical thing. How are you going to invite them to take the next step with you? You don't have to say, hey, let's go on a next call, see what we can do. More about, hey, does it make sense for actually to have a follow-up conversation so I can dive into my process to see how it can benefit you to get X, Y, and Z, whatever you're trying to achieve. So that's the model there. I've also split tested that by having a VSL on the front end where I would have an ad to go to a conversation with me. Sometimes the ad, people don't even watch the VSL. It's just straight up conversation. Then from there to introduction call. But sometimes it's ad conversation. Then for me, sending them the video sales letter on a web page, and it explains education. I teach them about the problems and solutions that they may not be aware of, and then from there I go into making a simple offer, and from there jumping on the call. The sale that I'm trying to make is to jump on the call, not to sell the service. My next step is to sell the next step in the relationship, and that's proven fruitful. And from there, building really good relationships with amazing clients. I know other clients where, um, well, I think I explained it at the beginning, where if you're just doing content and you don't have like your offer on the front end, you're going to elongate the calls of how many calls and series of calls that you have. And naturally, if you're solving a superiorly high ticket value problem and it's a more I'd call them serious problems, like you can't get this wrong. Like whoever is buying this, it's high risk if they get it wrong. Then yeah, as many calls as you need. But I'm just trying to figure out here, obviously on a live. I don't even know who, if you're watching. Let's see who's watching right now. Got a few people. Um, anyways, knowing where and knowing how. Where are they at in the awareness journey, and how can you move them down deeper to understanding more about what you offer and what you do? And I think it's not either and or. I see a lot of arguments out there saying, hey, demand gen is going to solve all of these problems. Just shoot them marketing, give them podcast, syndicate that with videos, syndicate that with micro posts, syndicate, and that will help. but they also have to talk to someone or something eventually. I just heard today of an AI that is that creates, it models the person, and then from there you can ask it any technical question around a problem directly on your website without actually talking to a human. So that's still going to happen, but that's what I just mentioned earlier, a digital asset either on your website or on some web page where people can engage with to go further down from problem aware to solution aware. They may not know the product, like they still may be deciding against multiple products, but at least it's facilitating that so that when they talk to a human or they talk to you, it's more either a relationship build, customization for what I need, or hey, this is the right fit. Let's roll. That's what I got for you here. Comment on the chat below. I'll see if I can see it here in the live stream as well. But comment where you're at with building your customer sales journey, and we'll see you on the next live next week. So I do these. I'm going to do this as an experiment. So just so you know, it's an experiment in public. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, live here around noonish Pacific time, Eastern time, 3 o'clock, and yeah, we'll go from here. We'll see you on the next workshop.